Back before the meteoric rise of video gaming, somewhere in the early 1990s, we children had to resort to creating our own brand of fun. And unlike the pasty youth of today, we would enter this mysterious place called the Great Outdoors, and there we'd get into fistfights with Mother Nature, and often stumble home hopped up on vitamin D and riddled with bleeding wounds and oozing scabs. As such, we were often hit with the summer doldrums, having done essentially everything there is to do in 2 months' work. But one particular afternoon, since throwing ourselves over our bike's handlebars had become too painful and, upon further reflection, too stupid an activity, we had to sit down and think of something else to do, all 8 or so of us, scraping through the bottom of the barrel in order to get through another afternoon. Can't remember his name, but this one genius had the great idea to throw together a game of Capture the Flag, and it seemed reasonable to the rest of us at the time. Hadn't really attempted anything like it before, so it was agreed that we'd give it a shot, with the caveat, should we become bored, we would take turns slapping what's-his-face who suggested it in the first place. Kind of a win-win scenario. Only problem was, we didn't have a pair of flags to use as our targets. No problem, I say, we could just grab some t-shirts from home and tie them to a stick. As captain of my team, I therefore ran home and procured a shirt, and Danny, the stupid son of a bitch, captain of the other team, did the same. About 10 minutes later, everyone meets up at the predetermined location, which was the woods a few blocks over from our houses. This was at a time before the island on which I lived was scorched with McMansion's concrete and pavement, a time where there'd be a collection of empty beer bottles and mysterious porno mags in the depths of the forest. These were the good old days where adventure would take you to some strange shit, like Nazi insignia spray-painted on lone-sitting walls somewhere. Explain that one to me. Whatever. Nevertheless, we spread out about the size of a football field, and we planted our flags in the ground. My team's shirt, the robust blue of knightly purity, and their team, a dumpy-looking brown flag that hung flaccid on its pole. I asked Danny what the deal was, and he just shrugged his shoulders, saying that he grabbed the first thing he could find out of the hamper. We ragged on him for a bit, as kids do, and then we started up the game, anxious to stomp each other's dicks into the dirt. Having not thought the rules of the game through very thoroughly, we decided that small rocks we could scoop up would serve as ammunition, and if you were pegged with one, you'd have to drop the flag and run back to your base. I, having played in Little League at that time, was quite the sniper, and I was able to hurl stones a solid 30 yards with a good amount of strength and accuracy. This kid George played in the same league, and he was on the opposite team, and his skill level was about the same. He was able to pick off people on Team Blue with the same consistency. Well, even though the match was a bit of a stalemate, we were enjoying ourselves, getting our kicks on hurting each other with rocks and whatever shit we could find laying around. There came a point, however, and I forget how it happened, but there was a rise in the action and our team got the upper hand. I think we'd gotten 2 of their men down, and we were advancing up the field with a renewed sense of, urgency. So this fast little kid Vinny goes ahead and he snatches their flag, and he takes off with it, dipping and ducking the few rocks George has left, and he manages to score for our team. Now, we're all happy as hell since George was a bit of a dick, and we want to rub his nose in it, so we run over to Vinny to celebrate. What do we see but the fucking kid has mud all over his face, and we're kind of surprised since it hadn't rained in weeks. So I look over at Danny's flag and I study it for a moment, and I notice that the fucking thing is covered in shit. Turns out his sick grandfather that was staying at his house shit himself earlier in the day and tossed his ruined shirt into that hamper. So poor Vinny, our goddamn hero, walked home with a face full of some old man shit. I'll never forget that kid.